don't want to go for the guy who has all of the money first. Like, big mistake. Not using it.
This is Brianna. I'm Jonathan. Welcome to the Fire Ready Aim podcast.
Not using this intro.
Podcast for how long?
Years,
like a decade, and we're finally doing it.
Yeah. I think it's been a decade, yeah.
And I don't know, what I've always told people is why we wanted to do podcasts is because we wanted to know what we were thinking about in that certain time of life. Sorry, I guess we missed the last 10 years of that, but hey, we're here now, 15 years into business, and we're finally going to start recording what we're thinking.
Exactly. I'm excited to get that on, so we can look back.
Get it on the record.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, welcome to our beautiful office studio here. We're here to get some knowledge out there. And another goal of this podcast is, to make historical record where we're at, to hopefully grow the podcast so somebody else who's smarter than us would want to come on the podcast, and so we can network and learn from them as well.
Yeah.
So here we go.
And teach the people we were 10 years ago. I think that's really what we're looking for.
Absolutely.
We were morons.
One really funny story about when we started in business together. I had owned a pizza restaurant, a little carry-out and delivery pizzeria in southwest suburbs of Chicago, Orland Park. And Brianna and I got married when we were 22, and I'd already owned this place for 2 years. I remember Brianna came into the business, and you were there for like a few days, and you're like, you really don't know what you're doing here, huh? Basically I was just running on like a madman working hard all the time. And that's just a funny memory to me. But that kind of started our journey to self-education and being a part of our industry and going to trade shows, going to conferences, getting coaching from people. And, I guess I know I'm thankful for you in my life that I had somebody to push me into, actually being growth mindset. Because I think I was very stagnant at that time.
That's cute.
Just because I thought I knew everything. I didn't need to learn anything because I was so smart as a 22-year-old. Because I could own a business.
That's when we knew the most, when we were 22.
Oh.
That's when we knew the most in my entire life. That's absolutely.
Oh. It's also... I would say it's not just about being young 20s either. I think it's when you first start something too.
Yeah.
You first start a business or something. We've run into that at trade shows and stuff where people are just so pompous, they've had one good year and they're kind of starting out hot and they think they know everything, and I just kind of laugh at that. I was like, man, we've been doing this journey for 15 years and sometimes you don't know who you're sitting by. But I think that's another thing.
You know how much you don't know. That's what younger or more inexperienced people don't know is it hasn't been revealed to them how much they don't know, and the speck of what they actually do know is tiny. But
that kind of leads into this. We're talking about something we knew nothing about, and we had to do it.
And so now we're going to do a podcast on it.
So now we're the
we're the experts.
all-knowing experts on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm excited to also hear what people have to say to this. If anybody ever watches this, from their experience of raising money for something, because we were actually into our business careers 14 years before we ever really had to go out and raise real money, And honestly, we didn't want to. I think that was a big kind of stumbling block we had to get over, was the fact that we were very proud that we didn't have any investors. We were proud that we had paid off our debt. And we thought, we're just going to do this alone forever. We can just figure it out ourselves. And I think that's a great way to start. I don't think you need investors right out of the gate, and definitely not for smaller projects. But if you want to do bigger things, there is a big benefit to bringing on investors, and I think that's what we figured out this project. And we were kind of forced into it. So it helped. It helped that we were forced into it, and then we also found that it was going to be a good thing for us. So to set the stage for this, so we have a restaurant in Lamont, Illinois. It's called Wood and Paddle. We do wood-fired pizzas, craft cocktails, shareable dishes. That's grown into something else too. We have a catering branch of our company. We cater weddings all around Chicago with mobile wood-burning ovens. And our kind of journey, we had a bad landlord a long time ago, so we decided to, at one point, buy our building. So our Lamont building, we bought it when we moved to town here. And that worked out. It's probably one of the best business moves we ever did was to buy our property. So we don't have to worry about a landlord screwing us just because we're having a little bit of success. So we went on to LaGrange years later, about 5 years after we opened the Lamont location, and we bought the building in LaGrange, Illinois. So we use the SBA to get our first loan in LaGrange, and it wasn't easy by any means because the SBA process is always difficult. But
but that version of it was for sure easy.
That version was easy compared to.
So we bought the building and we were just going to build out the first level, and there was a commercial tenant on the second level, and that was just how it was going to be, just restaurant first. And then we realized that we really needed to do both levels at once, and that's when it kind of grew into something that we didn't have the money for on that first round of financing. And then we went back to our bank and we're like, of course, they love us. They're going to give us the money. And they were like, absolutely not. We're done. Like, we're tapped out. And so that was a shock, but not really. But it was kind of a shock. And then we had to go find a new bank.
We both thought they'd be a little more open-minded, because we're one of our, Clifton strengths, things is futuristic, so we were always thinking about what about the future, this and that. So we're getting those plans together in the LaGrange spot, and we know like LaGrange is there's not many openings down there, and if we could utilize every level of this building properly, it'll be such an awesome thing for us.
Yeah.
So we found out early in the planning, if we do not put this 120,000 pounds of steel into this building, we'll never properly be able to utilize the second level, which we're putting an event venue at, and we'll never have the proper structure in the building to do the rooftop bar that we want to do there.
So it basically ballooned out of control because what year was that? No.
2022.
So long ago. So 2022, still kind of the aftershocks of COVID and the steel prices being out of control, and it was just nuts. So it kind of ballooned, and we did end up finding a bank eventually that would take on the bigger version of this project. But do you want to tell the story? I could tell the story about how the bank, we had been working with them for close to a year at that point. We had gotten the term sheet. We were so excited, ready to go. We put a little extra money on the table and we were comfortable with that. And basically the bank came to us and said, hey, we want you to bring an extra $500,000 to the table at closing. And we were tapped out. Literally everything that we could bring to the table was in the deal at that point. And so the bank asked for another $500,000, which I don't have. You didn't have.
That'd been really nice.
Nobody freaking had.
That'd been really nice just to be able to pull, $500,000 out of a bank account and been like, yeah, we're ready. But that was not even close to where we're at. So
yeah, it was insane.
Honestly, I was so depressed by that. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, we've been working with you for so long, and then we finally hear right now that you want us to.
Was that when we were with Caleb and Alexis? When we were visiting them? Our friends in Michigan, I swear. we got the term sheet, and they had expressed this, that we needed additional money, and that kind of ruined the day. It was just depressing.
Yay for being a small business owner. Your life is always, we need to get better at that. It's like being in your email, looking at it, finding bad news while you're on a family vacation trip, and
it's awesome.
I felt we held it together that day.
Yeah, we did. Basically, a good way of sticking my head in the sand for a few hours to just not think about it anymore. But yeah, so that was basically it. We didn't have the money. We needed to get the money, and that kind of started the whole thing. I think that starts anybody who is looking for investors. You don't have the money. Yeah. You need the money. So
at that time, we had an SBA loan, and they maxed out at a certain amount of money, and it was a little bit over the SBA's max for this project. And then they're like, oh, we found this new product. The state of Illinois is sponsoring, this loan product that's going to help you out and work. And when the state of Illinois government is sponsoring something, shockingly, it didn't work out.
Yeah.
Like, it fell through.
Shocking.
Everybody was answering their phone for a while, and then the banker tells me,
holidays hit. They're just
like,
out.
Yeah, so the state of Illinois hasn't responded to us in 21 days, and they were calling us back every day before, and I don't know what's going on there.
Christmas parties.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah.
It's
not shocking, but it was. Yeah.
So that kind of sucked. So at a certain point, we're like, okay, well, we need to. Great. This one thing is supposed to be this loan plus putting $500,000 in the bank. This is what's going to get you to the finish line. And then even that, we hadn't even raised the $500,000 at that point, but we basically found out that was not going to work. We were in the process of raising the $500,000.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, I went to the banker and I was like, "What if? So the Illinois thing isn't going to work out. What if I just raise more than $500,000? What if we raise a little bit more just to take that thing out of the second loan out of the equation altogether, and just do the one loan and our investors and our money going in to the other side."
That's a lot of details.
That's a lot of details. Super confusing. I'm sorry.
Unnecessary.
But that's kind of what happened.
Yeah.
And then the number went up from the $500,000 to a higher number that we needed to raise. So that's why we're talking about raising $1 million in 3 months.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
basically, I will preface this. We want to kind of give you our steps. If somebody is in a similar situation or whatever, we want to give you the things that we did to raise that money. Because truly, we knew absolutely nothing. Like, it was a 0 to 100 like escalation, because we hadn't even looked into it before.
We were kind of against it, to be honest.
Yeah, we were kind of against it for, I don't know. I feel like we are generally open-minded, but I think it sounds cool to own 100% of your company and not have investors, and that piece of us.
Who do you answer to? I answer to me.
Yeah. There's nobody telling me what to do, and that's like generally entrepreneurs. But forcing ourselves into this actually was kind of nice, because we came out on the other side thinking that's actually a good way to expand. It has a lot of benefits, so we'll talk about that. But we want to give you kind of our 7 steps for raising money, and this could be raising $50,000, $1 million. I'm sure it could be more. We raised $1 million. So the first thing, and this is always like truly my first stop, is reading books.
I was going to say, this is your first stop.
This is my first stop.
And I appreciate when you push that onto me, because it forces me to become a better person.
Mm-hmm.
So,
because if you have a major knowledge gap in something, what are you going to do? Like, you have to go get the information. So I basically took a crash course in what I'm sure MBAs the world over learn when they're in college, but neither of us went to college. So this was my crash course. So I read a few books, but the big one that I ended up really loving and diving into was Keys to the Vault by Keith Cunningham. Did you end up reading it?
Yes.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did read the book.
You didn't get the Cliff Notes?
Am I getting crap right here?
I feel like I don't know. Anyway,
I did read the book. Yes.
Okay, so we both read it. I think the big takeaway for me was kind of learning like who. It was such a fuzzy world. Like, where do you get these people? Are they just in like the cracks of society, like ready to throw money down on a good deal? But like, where do you find them? But really, it wasn't investors we ended up looking for in the traditional sense of like professional investors. It really was like family and friends to start. Mm-hmm. But family and friends do not get you to $1 million. But they definitely help.
Well, unless you have the right family and friends.
That's true. That is true.
We have some of those. We have some great friends who have,
Mm-hmm.
some people have great businesses and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say like one big area where our friends came in handy was like just hearing us out in the first place. We'd never given a pitch.
Yep.
We've never like shared some of these intimate business details with people, and it's like it's nerve-wracking, you know?
Yeah. So that book was awesome. I'd totally suggest reading it if you are looking for investment. Okay.
So you read the book.
Read the book.
Keys to the Vault. Learn some lessons there.
Yep.
Talk to people who are smarter than you.
So that's step 2, is talking to people smarter than you.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. I think this is more your forte.
Yeah,
Would
like
you say this step?
in our relationship and business, we've always had like our strong points. Finding knowledge from resources, you've always been really good at, and I've always been a little bit better at networking and making connections with people.
Yep.
So, like I've luckily had some amazing people who've come through the restaurant over the years. I was really lucky with Chris and Joe Flam. They're super nice. They're brothers. They live in Lamont. Chris is a financial advisor and Joe's a banker. And so I was able to talk to those. It's like both sides of what I need to know. It was amazing. So
And they actually took the time to sit down with us, which I thought was insane.
yeah, not only have they both had kids work at our business.
Yeah.
They both eaten at our restaurant so many times, and they're like
We're making
selflessly.
Lamont sound like this big. It's
Lamont-
really, I mean, it's small, but it's not like
Lamont has 17,000
small
people. It's pretty freaking small.
Yeah, but Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago. Anyways, these guys are great. They came in, they heard us out on all this like crazy first draft that we did from our little book. They kind of looked at the deal we put together like, guys, nobody's going to take this deal,
We basically, I mean, our first deal, I don't know what we were thinking now, but it's cute. We basically wanted to give people like a loan, essentially, like no equity, just like, here, we'll pay you back interest. It was so...
And it wasn't like an amazing interest rate for like a
No.
person either. It was like 10%
And
in our like a land of rising rates.
Yeah, prime
So-
was like 9%. We're like,
Yeah.
we'll do you one better, 10%. And so that was our first one. But what I thought was interesting about how Chris and Joe approached helping us was they didn't give us the answer. They didn't say, this is the way you need to structure your deal. They really just kind of asked the right questions to pull things out of us and made us think. And I badly wanted Chris to just tell us what to do. I'm like, tell me what my business is worth. Tell me what people will take. I don't know. What's the max? What's the minimum? I have no clue. And Chris was really good at just kind of holding back and letting us think for ourselves. And yeah.
And then he's
he was
like, go
wonderful.
home and work on it and send me what you come up with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It felt very like professor-esque. Like he was just going to draw it out of us. So, but the concept was, I mean, we were reaching out to other people who had done deals. We were reaching out to other people who had just invested in other deals. What did they like to see? What did they not like to see? Things like that. Really, it was all people who knew, the concept of investing wasn't foreign to them. They had done it before on either side of the table, and they were just better at it than us. And I think that's the biggest thing. There's definitely somebody that that has done something like this that can help you.
So yeah, I'd say an entrepreneurial lesson that I've learned from this, is that you just need to jump in and start going after it to learn it. Because
100%.
it's so uncomfortable. Like you have
I
no
felt like
idea.
an idiot.
Yeah.
Like talking to
my
Chris
gosh,
and Joe, I was like, you're incredibly smart. You're incredibly smart. I've gotten a business to a certain point, but I don't know what the heck I'm doing.
I can make pizza.
Yeah, exactly.
like-
But it's good to have the stature of kind of like, I'm an idiot and you're just curious, because we extracted everything we eventually needed from them. Like they were super helpful and we got what we needed out of that. So yeah, so talk to people smarter than you. Number 2.
Joe and Chris, you're awesome. And
Yep.
Ken Andreessen helped us a lot with the
Yes.
with the deal as well.
Yep.
Ken,
Lots of
you're
people.
awesome as well. Thank
Lots
you
of
so
people
much.
on our team. So number 3 is build your marketing materials. So this is a sale. Essentially, you are selling investors on your business and investing money with you. And to make a sale, you need marketing materials. So that includes your business plan, your projections, what's the ROI for them, and your pitch deck, and then your speech even that's associated with your pitch deck. I would say this was something I'm so happy we did. We tried so freaking hard to get this right out of the gate. And I think a lot of people do themselves a disservice when they try to make this a very like ad hoc kind of, whatever thing, because they're pitching to friends and family. And I liked that we went into it as if everyone we were pitching to was a venture capitalist. Like we pitched my dad the same way that we pitched people who have done this before. And we had this beautiful pitch deck, and I practiced, and we talked about it, like Shark Tank. We were ready for the questions that they were going to bring us.
Absolutely.
We prepared for that. And I think because we kept it professional, like right out of the gate, everyone trusted us a lot more. It wasn't this like back of a cocktail napkin, like, I swear to God, I'll do really well. Like, just give me your money. So, do you have anything else you want to say about that?
No, it's just interesting when you're giving the pitches that it's interesting just seeing how different people are in the situation of getting pitched.
Yes.
And what makes them interested and excited and what doesn't. And that every pitch is going to be completely different. And you just need to be ready on your feet to kind of go into each one of those things. It was funny with, a lot of my friends who are my age, 35, who I pitched, the idea of buying into the restaurant. So basically how we set up the structure is a restaurant corporation that we're giving equity in, event venue we were giving equity in, and the property, the real estate that we're giving equity in.
Yeah, so businesses and then real estate.
Two businesses, one real estate. So all my young friends were like, look at the upside of the restaurants and this and that. And then all the sophisticated older investors were like, well, we need to have that real estate piece. And my friend's like, we don't even need the real estate. So it's just kind of funny, like playing each side of it. And I was like, oh man, with this person, this worked, and this person, they totally don't care at all,
Yeah.
So.
Yep. And I think for us, the marketing materials really were to like cast the vision for where the company is going to go. So we didn't just include the project that we're doing right now, this pitch. We really wanted them to see the stability and kind of the vision of the company going forward. That's the most exciting thing, I think, for a lot of people. Like, we put in our, the renderings of the space, and anything I think you can add to the excitement of the deal. And, I don't know, it can't be all numbers. Numbers, even for numbers people, aren't always extremely exciting. Like, you need to kind of hit everybody that you'll be pitching to, essentially. So,
absolutely.
So that was it. Number 3. So structuring the deal is number 4. And that one was basically at the end of the pitch deck, like, what's the deal? Like, what kind of money are they going to see back, and when? And, what are those kind of hard numbers? And that took us so long to do. And
that was difficult.
Really, there is no, like, unfortunately, if someone's listening and they're in our shoes, they're going to be asking, like, okay, so what? I can't even give a definitive answer on, like, how to structure your own deal. But what I would relate it to selling your house. You think, and you might get some good information from a real estate agent, that, all right, your house is worth $500,000. And then you put it on the market, no dice. Someone offers you 400, and then you say, oh no, it's worth 500. And then 6 months later, somebody offers you 350. It's really whatever the market kind of decides. So people told us if they wanted to invest with us, if we had a good deal. And that was really the only way you can tell going into it.
Well, remember that piece of advice that Chris gave us was like, you need to go in with a very fair, good deal the first time.
Yep.
Because it needs to be like a yes on the first ask.
Yep.
You can't go back and like with your tail between your legs and be like, here's a little bit better. I made a few more percentage points for you.
That's actually a really big
that's
point.
Some great insight from him.
100%. Yeah. So, and we did, like the first one, we did that kind of interest loan type structure, whatever. That completely fell flat. Like, we pitched a friend and it was like very kindly, like, guys, I don't think we have.
It's our friends Andy and Katie, who are like some of the biggest supporters of us. We're so thankful for you two, if you ever listen to this, because they're always just driving an hour away to come visit us at the restaurant, which means a lot, But we gave them the first deal, and it was like, yeah, we're gonna give you 10% interest on this like unsecured loan. Like, what a bad deal.
Because restaurants never go out of business.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So that really getting the deal right, that kind of leads us into step 5, which is test your deal on smaller fish. So if you should have kind of a level of investment that you will accept. Like, you shouldn't go after, you're going to give me $500 and you're going to give me $500,000. You should have established some sort of level. So our level was $25,000 as a minimum. And So that is what I'm quantifying as like a smaller fish. Somebody who would be investing at that level, which is still a ton of money. Don't get me wrong, but there are people who then invested $250,000, so it's a little bit of a different scale. But you want to test on the people. You don't want to go for the guy who has all of the money first. Like, big mistake, because you are still kind of putting your feelers out there. This is like, these are the people that are visiting your house and checking it out, and they might buy it, you know. These are the people you want to test out on, instead of the guy who has all the money, because you might shoot yourself in the foot. And money is everywhere. I actually do believe that money is accessible and everywhere. But if you have these kind of like leads, you don't want to burn them.
Absolutely.
And so I suggest, if you're going to burn anything, burn the smaller ones first, where they're just like, oh, this isn't for me. And then you redo. And that's what we did.
Yeah.
So
find the bigger fish
Yep.
was the next thing.
Yeah.
And so we found them. You know, I went around to some...
All these fish.
Thought of people, you know, I wrote down, I had my list. I was kind of more the list person, I would say, of like who we could talk to. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we found just some friends who own successful businesses around and stuff, and went after them. And, you know.
Well, and actually, we went from Andy and Katie, who that deal was awful. And then we immediately changed it, and we restructured it to what it ended up being for everyone. But then we pitched a big fish.
Bob
And
Stacy.
This is just another person who you butt up into, and you're like, you're brilliant. Like, you're much smarter than me. I'm going into this, and I'm at a disadvantage because you just know more. He's done deals like this before. He's the CFO of his own business.
It's like we own a little restaurant, and you own over 10 car dealerships. You know,
yeah.
Anyway.
So we're unmatched, but. So Bob was our next like big pitch, and he loved it. He loves the restaurant. That helped. But he came back and he was like, I will give you the entire amount you're looking for. And I was like, oh, and then I read the next line and I'm like, oh God. He wanted, what was it, 25%?
He wanted to change the terms quite a bit.
Yeah.
And we felt at that time, you know, like, oh man, this would be so nice just to
wrap it up,
be done with this deal. But we felt like we already
especially since we were so expedited. We needed the money in the bank.
We felt though that we had already given a really good deal, and it was really changing up those terms that much would make it like, why are we really doing this? It's almost like a startup. Like, we've been in business already for a decade. Mm-hmm. We don't need to take this like, you know, startup kind of like deal. Like, we have no track record. Mm-hmm. And he didn't mean it that way. It was just more like he's trying to get a good deal for himself. Mm-hmm. If he puts the whole amount of money in, respect to that.
Yeah. I think though that goes into like, you have to kind of be met with those yeses and nos, and you do have to establish for yourself at some point what deal you're going to go forward with. And it might be the original one. It might look a little bit different, but you do have to kind of at a certain point ask yourself, is this structure worthwhile? You know, should I be moving forward with this? Does it actually make sense for me? And we ended up saying, like, you know what? I actually think other people will take this deal as is. And as much as this is attractive to just have the whole amount, it felt very like Mr. Wonderful Shark Tank-esque, but we had to say no. And then at that point, we still had $0 raised, which was super, super awesome. And then we went on to other people who eventually said yes to our deal. So, but the big thing, bigger fish, when we're saying find bigger fish, it was really about you establishing those relationships over time. I am shocked at the people who ended up investing, shocked at the people who didn't, and shocked at the people who you built kind of this like peripheral relationship with, but then they opened the doors to other people.
Absolutely.
You can't really discount who is going to invest. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I'm totally with you.
Coughing a lot in water. Okay, last step.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about it? Or?
Sure. Sorry. Follow up. Keep them interested on the hook until cash is in the bank. Answer questions. So my job was kind of finding those contacts, getting them set up for the meeting. And then I kind of was able to go in with your help you doing all the research and things and like kind of setting me up to give pitches and stuff. But if there's a really big fish that came through, I was like, Bree, this person's brilliant. Like who I think of for somebody like that would be someone like Tom Roos. Mm-hmm. And he's a guy who's been, at Cooper's Hawk when they started. He's been in that company a long time. He still has a position there, but he just really knows how the restaurant business works very well, and he knows how to open restaurants and stuff too. So that's just intimidating. This is only our second opening, and so it was nice to have a tag team partner on that. In those types of situations. Mm-hmm. And he was the person I would say asked the most questions in follow-up emails.
I feel like my dad actually asked.
Actually, your dad definitely did.
My dad, there was no way he wasn't going to not invest.
He said, I earmarked this amount no matter what. But
no matter what. But I feel like, when I was younger, he also, if I wanted to start a lemonade stand, he's like, show me your business plan. So I got that same energy this time around, but it was good. He actually had the most questions, I would say, like a professional investor would have. I don't know. He put me through the ringer, but it was good because other people ended up asking some of those questions.
Yes.
Either way, I think the big point of this step, following up and keeping them interested, is the sale isn't over until the money's actually in the bank. So don't think that just because somebody has committed, like there were different life events that in a span of a couple months people dropped off, things changed, they wanted to invest in other things. Until you actually have the money in the bank, don't count it as an absolute. So I think that was a big lesson learned, especially with all of the delays. It's important to keep them interested. So
that's definitely something we could do better next time.
100%.
It's like, here's a monthly update. This is where it stands. Because we definitely have people get cold feet and back out because of that.
Yeah.
Keep them on the hook.
Yeah, keep them on the hook. I think that was one of the biggest lessons we had to learn was we did a pitch. Somebody said yes, and we counted that as good. That was it. But we didn't nurture those relationships as well as we should have. And the people, what we found was interesting, and why you need to do this, unless you want to just keep doing work over and over again, is we found that the more professional investors, the people who had done deals like this before, were putting in the big amounts of money. They weren't scared off by the delays. They totally understood. On the other hand, people who hadn't done deals like this before, were putting in the smallest amounts of money, kept getting scared with the delays. And we really should have followed up more. That was like our biggest mistake was, hey, this is normal. This is okay. This isn't that big of a deal. Our professional investors aren't scared. You shouldn't be scared. And we didn't do that. So a few people dropped off because of that.
Yeah, definitely. It's just it's a mental marathon, this whole thing, especially when the banking situations in the world economies are just kind of a little screwed up, So I would say that with all the delays of getting the loan to closing, I didn't anticipate that when pitching to people. So I'm being honest, saying, I think we're gonna need money by the end of November. And all of a sudden, we're sitting at the end of March and we're going to closing date of April 15th. And it's like, oh, shoot, like that totally went against plan. And keeping in touch with people and letting them know exactly what's happening. It doesn't matter how depressing it is to you about where you're at and how long things are delayed, this or that. You still need to let everybody else know what's going on because they're not living it like you.
Yep.
So,
And I think that's honestly just a lesson we've learned in business in general. So anytime that we have pulled back on communication, this even goes for like our employees. When, let's say, business is slightly down and you say, we're not going to get that new thing, and you haven't hired anybody new for a while, employees might think, oh, this is it. Like sales are going down a little bit and they're not spending money and they're not bringing anybody on. Like, do I have a job? Is this place going to go out of business? That could be you paying off a bunch of debt and getting to the most financially stable your business has ever been. But because you didn't communicate that to your employees, they're freaking out. So same thing with all of these investors. Had we just every month done an investor newsletter, and even if we truly had no update on the bank, just saying where our company is going or things that we've learned, people we've brought on, just giving those, I think, little tidbits along the way would have helped to retain a little bit more of that and their faith in us and kept the excitement moving. What I did end up doing to kind of reconcile for that problem was make an investor newsletter. I kicked it off right when we were about to get money and kind of re-energized everybody through that letter. Like, hey, this is where we're going. You know, these are the things that we have achieved, even in the short time that we haven't spoke. You know, all of the excitement is still there. We hope you're in. And that really, I feel like, helped wrap up a few loose ends.
That's like one of the funny things to me in this whole thing. Like, people who signed up right away, you know, and backed out later, it was like, boy, from my perspective, we're actually a much stronger company today than when you signed up. Mm-hmm. It's just like the lack of, you know, proper communication, proper marketing to the people who had signed up, and like telling them the whole story, you know. So
and honestly, I think good advice to anybody raising money is to have a little bit of like a thicker skin than you normally do, because you might have friends and family who could invest and maybe have said that they would in the past, commit to it, maybe they back out. Those things you really cannot let, like, you can't let that affect you necessarily, because this isn't them investing or not investing or backing out or whatever. It doesn't have any bearing on your business or who you are as an entrepreneur, but it can feel like that when someone said, you know, because your business is an extension of you. So it can feel like you are crapping on my baby, essentially. And so you kind of have to just be prepared for that. Like, it's going to happen, and you're going to have awkward conversations with friends and family. You know, asking for money isn't comfortable. But at the end of the day, you'll find the right people who, you know, who want to support you and your business. So
absolutely. And if you do have negative feelings, you have to use that as a chip on your shoulder.
100%.
In terms of working harder to prove everybody that they
100%.
You should have gone with it.
Number of chips on my shoulder. It's a freaking stack of Pringles.
We're working through that.
Not actively. I feel like it helps me. It's a good thing for me. But what would you say was something that you would do again that we did really well in this process?
Just being completely transparent, being genuine. That's always served me well in business, by just telling the truth as I know it.
Yep.
And I might not be right about every single thing that I talk about, but at least I can sleep at night knowing what I said is my understanding where we're at the time. I never have to make up anything. If somebody cross-examines me in an email later, like, what did you say about this, and this? I just tell them what I truly believe, what I know to be true.
Yeah,
and
that's a good point.
That makes life so much easier. Do the right thing. Mm-hmm. So how about you?
I think honestly, making everything you're going to present to people your first best draft. Like, it shouldn't be a first draft in the sense that, you're gonna have an opportunity to kind of tinker with it later. In a sense you do, but there's not a lot of room for margin. Like, it should be your absolute best effort the first time around, because if you don't get them the first time, these pitches are long. This is an hour-long pitch with 30 minutes to an hour of questions after, and then follow-ups. If you don't get that right the first time, who's going to sit through that again? I wouldn't. I would just say, screw off. Like, your deal sucks. I'm uninterested. So putting your absolute best foot forward, even if you're kind of like fumbling through, you don't know everything, you still need to put your absolute best foot forward, I would say.
I'm going to go to what we would do differently next time.
Yeah.
So what would you do differently next time?
I would definitely, this is hard to say because we did think we were close to closing, but I would pitch as close as possible to, I think I said possible. Yeah. I would pitch as close as possible to when we would actually need the cash in the bank. And that's hard to say, because when it's your first time pitching, you're freaking out that nobody's going to give you any money at all.
Totally.
So you're like, I need to start this, whatever. But if you don't, I guess if you're not ready, like if you feel like, maybe you're not doing this project with a bank and there isn't any other, there aren't other people involved and there isn't going to be a delay I would just say as close as possible to when you're actually going to need the money would be helpful. Yeah. And or keeping those updates going so that people know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, that definitely made it difficult. I would say I would agree with you 100% with there's so much opportunity for lose interest when you're not, in the throes of it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was definitely...
Well, you're like juicing up excitement. Like the pitch deck, you could see people like lighting up when we gave them the pitch. It was exciting. Like it was so fun. This is cool. Restaurants are kind of like sexy. Like as much as like investors are like, that's not the sexiest, but so many people want to say, I own this restaurant. So it does have that like sexy element to it. And people got excited when we did the pitch. And that can just kind of...
I think I might like understanding what I know now about when you're doing an investment, getting investors for a bank loan deal is saying, hey, you know what? I would like for you to at least, if I call and you be ready in 2 weeks, it might happen as early as this date, but it might be delayed as much as this date.
Yeah.
And I think we still would have been behind that second date of the delay side, but at least there would have been more of an understanding because I was kind of, when I went into pitching, is more like, be ready by mid-November. Then all of a sudden it's like end of November, beginning mid-December, and nothing had changed.
But really the gap that we had was exacerbated by the fact that we didn't communicate with people.
Absolutely.
So I think the biggest thing we would do differently is probably talk to those people at more
honestly,
consistent
when you talk
intervals.
about it, you're like, that's stupid. But I think that's business in general, though.
Well, yeah, you just think you have it in the bag. You're like, all right, you said yes, I'm gonna write you down on to the next. Like,
absolutely,
I gotta keep this going, and yeah, so you can't until the cash is in the bank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
So,
totally.
Well, that's it, honey. That's our first podcast.
We did it.
We did it, Joe.
Decades of. Not decade, a decade of wanting to do it.
Yeah,
we completed a podcast.
It didn't hurt that bad. And honestly, I'm proud because this is going to be the worst one we do.
We'll see about that.
I mean, maybe it won't be, but
let's hope.
I'm hoping it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's it for the podcast. So,
we're excited to bring you more content.
More
kind of
content,
like this.
more things we've learned along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just excited to, like I said at the beginning, document when it's fresh in our minds about what happened, so we can look back later and be like, interesting, and hopefully help somebody else out along the way.
Yeah.
So,
and if you like it, this podcast or any other future podcasts that we do, subscribe,
rate, comment, and subscribe.
Rate.
Yeah, do that, and also send us ideas for things to talk about. If there are any questions, like we live our life every day, but I know people definitely have questions about a restaurant entrepreneur's life. Mm-hmm. So we're always up for those.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that's it.